Well, I want to start with this scripture. It's very basic. I'm taking it from the book of Mark, chapter 12, verse 30. You've been around a while, you know this. If you don't know it, you do need to know it. Very simple. It's actually Jesus quoting Deuteronomy chapter 6, okay? And he says, talking about the love of God, love the Lord your God, and you know some of this, with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. Now, the book of Matthew does not have strength in it. I just want to say that in case you notice and say, well, I guess Matthew forgot it, or it's not important, or whatever. Jesus is quoting then from book of Deuteronomy, which is Hebrew. And when Matthew wrote, he was writing from the Greek. And so the Greek had a different little phrasing, and the reason he did that is because at that time the Greek language and ideas were kind of prevalent a lot. So he's just reaching into his audience. And so it means the same thing when you go back and realize he's believing the same Hebrew as Jesus is believing the same Hebrew, but he translated it out of the Greek and it came out a little differently. Okay, so when I talk about this scripture, this is a big deal. It's not a suggestion, it is a commandment. It is a commandment. Did anybody here not know what a commandment is? You know, commandment means there's no options. And yet we struggle with this because I've even had parents, particularly a couple of moms through the years, when it says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and they struggle with it. They say, I don't know how I can do that because, I love my children so much, and I don't know how to not love my children or to love my children less so I can love God with all my heart. I can't do that. I can't love God with all my heart because then what am I going to do about my kids and my family? I get that, and I think that could run through your mind too when it says all heart, soul, mind, and strength. That's a lot. That means there's none left over. So if we don't understand what God was after, then we could get confused like that and not understand how this system works. Okay, so I'm going to help walk you through it a little bit, all right? Because it is a command. All right, so I'm going to back up and explain it on a level everybody can understand, all right? When I was in middle school, or they might have called it junior high, I don't remember which, but anyway, when I was in middle school, which is what, about 6, 7, 8, right in there, right? Well, I don't know what it was in your school where you were, but in my school, it was heavy. There were a lot of romances in that grade. 6, 7, 8, there's lots. They were all short term, but there were a lot of romances. And in that, and they still happen today, no one would ever, even though you're having a middle school romance, nobody would go up to a girl. A guy wouldn't go up to a girl and say, I love you, right? And the girl wouldn't say, I love you. You get something like, I got a couple of these. Did you ever get one of these? You got a note passed to you during class, and it said, I like you. Do you like me? And then the bottom was a box that said yes or no. You ever get one of those? So in middle school, what we would do is we would use the term like. And, a lot of times when you get in those middle school romance things, it feels like love to you, but we know now it isn't. It's not the same. But it can almost feel like the same at that age. So I'll tell you a story. So that one of those summers, I went away to camp. And back then, you could write letters back then. You write somebody goes to camp, you can write them a letter. Or you go to camp, you can write your mom and dad a letter. I'm in camp or whatever. And so we got there on a Sunday or whatever. And on Tuesday, I got a letter. And I got a letter from a girl named Judy. I know her. Today I know her last name, but I got a letter from a girl named Judy. I didn't know Judy very well, but I'd seen her at the swimming pool the week before I left, and we talked a little bit like that, and I opened the letter, and she starts saying this stuff, and she says, I like you. I like you. So I wrote back, and I didn't know her that well, but that's good enough for me, and then wrote her back, and said, I like you too. And so my thought was when I get back, it's just gonna be a little over a week, and so I thought, when I get back, then I'll go back to the swimming pool, and Judy will be there, and so for that moment on, I wasn't thinking about camp. I was thinking about Judy. She was smart. She was nice looking, smart, sharp, popular. And so then I'm excited to get back, and I leave camp and go back and show up. The very next day that I get home, I go to that swimming pool. And by the time I got there, she already liked somebody else. No kidding. I never really even got to talk to her on the like level. It was 1 week that I got the news, and she already liked somebody else. So when we get into relationships with God, because he's talking about love, and people, we have to bring ourselves to the level, and I have to look back. At the time, it kind of felt like love, you know what I mean? But was it love, or was it like? Because we said like, but I don't know if we meant love, but it felt like love. But there's something different that puts it in the category of like. So I like you. It feels like love, maybe. But I'm not gonna change my value system for you. I'm not gonna change the things I like, or I love, or I like to do, or the habits I have. I might like you. I might even think it feels like love, but I'm not gonna make any big changes for you, for someone I like, even though I like them a lot. I'm not planning on making any changes. I may have liked a few girls in the 8th grade, but I wasn't gonna alter my life for them, right? Listen how quiet it is. They're starting to get this already. They were laughing a few minutes ago. But you understand, was it love or was it like? I can tell it was like because I had some feelings, but I wasn't planning on altering, changing the direction, doing anything different. I just was gonna have a girlfriend that I liked. Right? Okay. So when you get into the love category, is it love or like? When you get into the love category, and that's what we're talking about when we're talking about loving God. When you get into the love category, love means that you value. Love means value. It equals value. It means I value you, or in this case, value God. I value you above myself. That's where love comes in. All of a sudden, I value you above myself. Like is different. Like means you value yourself. And you like somebody because that person makes you feel good about yourself. There's a difference. Like is different because like means you're still gonna value yourself. You're not planning on making any changes really. You like yourself, but you like people, certain people, because certain people like you and make you like yourself. Feel good about yourself. We like each other, okay? So that's the difference between is it love or is it like? I hesitate to bring up the word divorce because there's people who have been divorced here and it's just part of our culture now and all that. And so I really don't want to bring it up because sometimes people who have been divorced, they got enough problems in their head and heart. So I don't want to bring anything up too much about this, but being married, 51 coming up, or wait, it is now. Oh, it came and went, and I forgot, didn't I? I was last, whoa. Well, Kathy, I forgot, so is it love or is it like? I gotta know. Okay, so anyway, 51 years, I've learned a few things about this. So being married that long, divorce is a little bit hard for me to figure out sometimes. But if you put it in the teaching part and not really any criticism on anybody's part, because I understand. But so somebody gets a divorce, it's a good question. Was it love or was it like? I mean, that's your decision. You figure it out. But from somebody that's been married this long, it's a good question. I don't know the answer totally, but is it love or is it like? In other words, I'm trying to figure out, does love turn into hate or does like just turn into dislike? Because if it's like and turns into dislike, I can understand that because it started on the like level in the first place. You understand what I mean? Two people like each other. They think it feels like love, so they get married, and then all of a sudden you realize, hey, This is gonna cost me something. This person's like, I gotta give of myself. I have to change. I gotta alter my life like I didn't wanna do for Judy, you know? And I liked her, but I'm not gonna change everything about me. Well, some people go into marriage like that too. They like the person because the person likes them, and it makes them feel good to have that person like them. Does that make sense? And so after a while though, living together can be difficult on a like level. Because love requires something, but like is like nothing, you know, I'm just me and you're you, and we're gonna try to do the best we can and not get on each other's nerves. And so I don't know, I'm not answering the question, but I'm making the question, is it love or is it like? And it turns into dislike, or does it turn into hate? But I brought up that subject, so I started stretching it a little bit more, even just to talk about, what about troubled marriages? And we have some, we've had some, and we have some, and we've had some that got over it and got better. Okay, but just the subject of troubled marriages. Marriages can have trouble. And if it really gets bad, then it makes me question, if it's that tough and that hard for you to live with this person and this person to live with you, and it's always trouble, it makes me want to know, is it love or is it like? Because it can be and like is good too, but it's not love. Because you have to ask yourself, are you having marriage troubles because you value yourself above the other person? You have a high value, and it means, and so there's trouble. Or is there trouble because the other person, now you hear this sometimes, the other person doesn't meet your needs. Have you ever heard that? I don't know how many times I have. Oh, not from Kathy. I mean, I didn't mean you. I meant for some other people. I have to go home with her. I want to clarify things. I don't want it to turn into like. I want to keep the love if we can do it. But anyway, is it because that person doesn't meet your need or doesn't make you feel good about who you are? And so there's trouble. You're not feeling good about who you are when you're around this person. You were around this person and they liked you and you felt good about yourself, but now that you're living together over a certain amount of time, now it requires love, and it requires something of you to maybe alter a few things, and they need to alter a few things. We put the other person above ourselves and we make changes. We alter habits. We're willing to sacrifice. We're willing to lay down our lives to keep this thing together. But like doesn't do that. Like gives excuses. You don't meet my needs, or you don't make me happy, or whatever it is, and then tension comes and we're fighting in trouble because somebody, or both, one of them at least, doesn't want to lay down their life. Probably both, but at least it takes one to be upset all the time in this relationship. So I don't know, you can answer the question, is it love, or are you struggling because you haven't hit that yet? You're still in the like mode, and the like mode doesn't want to give. The like mode wants to be liked. Okay, there's a difference. And the love mode wants to love, wants to give, willing to sacrifice. Okay, it's really quiet, but it probably should be. It probably should give you a moment to think. All right, so now let's talk more about love and the way we think of it, because most everybody does this, so it's not just you. But everybody from the 8th grade up, which I know about that now, and now you know about it, everybody puts it that to people in our culture, love is an emotion that creates feelings, like maybe warm feelings or whatever feelings. It's an emotion. It has feelings. There's intimacy. There's even if you're experiencing something, and you go after that, you want to love, and you want to feel it, you want to have emotions, and you want to have personal experience. You want to experience love. Like love is an experience. It's something you feel. It's something that moves you. And so that's what, about everybody believes. And Christians themselves, you'll hear them pray and they'll try to be loving God, and they throw in gratitude, which is good. And they'll say, I'm grateful for what you've done for me, Lord. And gratitude is in the Christian love too. So Now we need to move out of that, okay? I want to move you out of that because I can save a marriage, I can save relationships, I can help you with your relationship with God if you realize what's really going on with God when he says, I want you to love me with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Okay, so when you study the Hebrew and the languages and the love language that God gives, love, when God says that, he's not talking anything about emotion. That's why it's a command. If it wasn't a command, he could say, love me, hopefully you'll feel it. But he's not asking you to feel it. He doesn't care whether you feel it. He's not after your feelings. Now, that's weird because that's what love is to us, and now we're trying to transfer what love is to us into learning how to love God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and we're realizing we're not even in his territory. We're not in his mind. We're not in his thinking. So this should help. So when you study the phrase of that, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, it actually does not mean with any emotion at all. It means the words translated, Kathy, mean a treaty. God's talking treaty talk. And it's interesting that back then, most of the audience to God was men. And of course, Paul was great in spreading it out for women. He kind of gets a bad deal, Paul, in the Bible, like he was anti-woman, because sometimes he talks about cultural things then that don't apply now and people misunderstand it. But anyway, okay, so we're glad for the women. We are very much for women and the ministry and serving and all that kind of stuff. But the nice thing about it, when it happened, when God was saying, love me with all your heart, he was mostly had an audience of men. And the men were telling men, right? They passed it along to men until later. Okay, so that's another reason why God talks in manly language in this. So the manly language is, I want you to, and it's kind of hard, get this. Okay, so God's talking manly language, mostly to men. It obviously is to women now. But mostly to men, think, and telling men, I want you to love me. What? With all your heart. What? I'm not sure I know how to do that to a man. Love me with all your heart, all your soul, what? So he flips it, says, listen, I don't want you to get you confused here in this emotional stuff. I don't want to get you mixed up with Judy at camp. Okay? So he talks to them and says, listen, it's like this. And men knew, they understood this. Men, I want to make a treaty with you, a covenant treaty. No war against each other. Get it? They understood that, and we understand that. And men can understand it, and so can women, of course. So it means, he presented in the Hebrew, the original language, when he said, love me with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, he says, it translates to mean, we're going to make a covenant, agreement, treaty, okay? Now they understood that better than we do. So in their day, in ancient tribes and treaties and stuff, here's how it worked. Like your tribe, we'll have two tribes, but your tribe is really smart. You're all really, really smart. And you can do just about anything with your hands, and you can make just about anything. You're really talented in that area. And another tribe found out that you're really good at making things and found out that you're really good at making swords, and you can make shields, and you can make, arrows, and all this stuff that you can make, because you can make anything. You can even make chariots. You're so good at this. Really smart, really talented. The only problem is you're a bunch of sissies raised by your grandma who coddled you. So you try to shoot that bow and arrow, snap. Oh man, that hurts. I hurt my finger. That's you. There's another tribe, though, that, they're like dumb high school football stars. Boy, can they fight. But they're terrible at making things. They never learned a thing. All they do is fight. That's what they're good at. Really good at fighting. So one tribe could be easily wiped out because they're sissy guys and they can make weapons, but they don't know how to use them. They're not good at it. And the other tribe could be wiped out because even though they're good brawlers and good fighters, they got stupid weapons that don't work, that break. So they get the idea. What do? They get the idea, what if we could make a covenant with each other? And you can make weapons, and you make this great stuff, and you give them to us, and we'll fight when the battle, we'll fight for you if you'll supply us with bows and arrows and swords and shields. And we know how to fight, so you won't have to fight, but we'll lose if you don't supply us with this great stuff. Great shields, strong, ones that don't break, Stand up against it. So we'll do the fighting. So they would make a treaty, covenant, or agreement. Might be similar to a contract, but not quite, okay? So they would make a treaty with each other, all right? And so therefore God brings that to us and says, look, that's what's happening. Love God with all your heart. Look at who you are, what you can be, and what you can't be. And of course, when God does it, he's not just talking about an individual, he's talking about all of humanity, everybody. God so loved the world. So he's wanting your world, people in the world, to look at themselves, examine humanity, examine your life, examine relationships, examine all the things about you and your family and everything about you, and you find out, what do you have compared to what God has? Well, not so much. In fact, humanity failed miserably. God was trying to make a covenant treaty with Adam and Eve. Create you in my image in the garden. I'm going to give you power, and you're going to be able to go out into the world and subdue the world, right? That's what it said. Go out and subdue it. Take charge of what's out there. And of course, they failed at it. They never even got out there. They got kicked out there, but they never got promoted out there because they failed before that. So now we have failed humanity who did not love God above themselves. I mean, think how lowly this situation is. When God has given him all the trees except one, and he gave this whole place, this whole garden, he gave them his glory, he gave them the power to subdue the earth and subdue God's enemies and all that. And Eve gets mixed up with the devil, who's very tempting. And he says, well, God's just trying to trick you. And it says, she looked at the fruit and saw that it was good for eating. And that was it. She ate it. Out of all God's promises that he had put on her and him, that were out there, forming them and promising so much for them. And all of a sudden, she thought of herself and thought, this looks good to eat. And she ate it. And then she went and gave it to her husband, based on, I guess, being tricked, listening to something else. But obviously, when it got down to it, somehow inside of her, she liked herself better than she liked God. Or she loved herself more than she loved God. Okay? So all this happens, the fall, sin enters the world, death enters the world, all those bad things that came in. And now they get thrown out, and God then eventually gathers a people, and he says, listen, this is how we're going to start this, because this is where it messed up before. Here's where we're going to start. You need to love me with all your heart, your soul, your mind, and strength, or else we're going to be in this mess again. Or you'll be in the mess, even if you don't do it personally, okay? So he starts that and he says, I've got to give you, this is not a suggestion, Eve and Adam and all their ancestors. This is a commandment. okay? And there's a reason he's doing that, because he's going to offer his strength to you, his world to you, his abundance to you. So we know the story then, of course, and if you're not familiar, you should hear it right this minute. We know the story, what happened. So Jesus comes along, born in Bethlehem, God is with us, and of course, Jesus came to do something, a lot of things. But one of the things he came to do was renew or start off again with not a new treaty, but renew the treaty that God had with humanity all along. But it was messed up because of the sin, corruption, rebellion, right, of humanity. So God comes along and Jesus comes along and says, we're going to renew this now. We're going to renew the treaty. We're going to make another offer. Jesus said, I'm going to offer my life, and I'm going to defeat death, just like those dumb football players. We're going to beat all your enemies, right? He says, I'm going to beat this for you. So now, after that, you won't have to fight death. You'll be eternal if you join me and I join you. And we make a treaty or agreement or a covenant, whatever you want to call it. But I like the word treaty because men understand the treaty. Well, women do too, but it's just for me, you know, I get it. And so he says, so that's what Jesus did. And so he conquered death. He conquered death, became alive again. He rose again from the dead, and he offers those that follow him, you're going to have the same experience eventually. Death is defeated, and you are eternal now, but you will become spirit, soul, and body all back again, the completion of salvation. In other words, you'll be raised from the dead too, and have a glorified body. So, when they make this treaty though, right, we talked about it. Wait a minute though, we can talk about all the stuff that God had to offer, but now we got to look at you. And we got to look at all humanity that's being offered salvation, right? God would like everybody to be saved. And so God's offering this through Jesus, the mediator, defeat of death and eternal life, and et cetera, great things, okay? But now, what about the other side? What about the sissies? That's you in the story. The coddled people, as though you were raised by your grandma. That wouldn't be Kathy though. That's not the kind of grandma she is, but but you know what I'm saying? This coddled society, even of Christians, kind of sissy people, that they're always getting their feelings hurt. And then they hold grudges. And then they're offended. Then they're screaming at people on the internet or in the streets or whatever, right? Complaining about everything, upset about everything. And so that's kind of our culture right now. So now, coming out of that, thankful and grateful for what Jesus has done for you, but what are you supposed to do? Well, we already know the command. You could say, well, I get it now. I'm supposed to love God with all heart, mind, and strength, right? I got it. But you still don't know what to do. So when they would do that, when they made treaties, there was something that one side had to do with the other side. And that was, it was a treaty of loyalty. And so when God is saying this, we'll switch it, we'll get it out of the two tribes now. We'll go back to God and talking to his people where he says, love me. He's saying, I've got all this to offer you. All this to offer you. Through Jesus now we've got death defeated, eternal life, and all the other blessings that go along with it. What do you have to offer? He says, I want your loyalty. I gotta know that you will never make a treaty with anybody else but me. Not the world, not other gods, not other religions, not other fads, not over that, Complete loyalty. I'll make a treaty with you, and I'll offer you all that I have, all the protection, salvation, all the things, the glory and heaven and earth and all that. But you can't make a treaty with anybody else. A loyal treaty, okay? Treaties. You'll support his decisions. So in this case, we'll put it in a little bit different way. Let's put it this way, where now We're kind of a puny little tribe, and we've come across to this great king now. He's rich, famous, because after all, Jesus is the most famous man that ever walked the earth. And he's my Savior, by the way. He's famous, powerful, rich. And he says, I'll take you in. I'll make a treaty with you, and all that I have is also yours if you make a treaty back with me. You have to be loyal. You can't make a treaty with any other king, okay? Can't do that. No other king, or else this is gonna be all messed up and you get yourself into trouble. And you're gonna support my ways, my thoughts, my decisions, I guess if you wanted to say. My leadership. So loyalty, no other treaty with anybody else, and you're gonna support and back up his decisions. Good? Is that too hard? That's the wide meaning. Loving God is bigger than that, but that's the wide meaning that gets you started, to say, oh, so God's offering me a lot. He's telling me to love him with all that I have, all that I am. And then if I put it in the worldly term of all my emotions are supposed, no, not all your emotions, all your loyalty, your love, your loyalty, make a treaty. I'll have no other gods before you. I'll be faithful to you. I will support your decisions. That's what love is in this context. It's a treaty. There's no emotion in it. You don't have to love your kids less so you can love God with all your heart. Because what he means, all your heart, he means, I want to know your heart is in this. That we're gonna get this agreement. We're gonna make an agreement together. And you're gonna make it when you make it with Jesus. And I wanna know your heart is in this. I wanna know your soul is in this. I wanna know your mind is in this. And of course, I wanna know, some of the translations say with all your might, but later they changed it. Some of them did, and I like it better. And with all your strength, all your strength. Now, the word strength is my favorite of all of them, because it's the most shattering of religion. Because you can go to most any church right now that's meeting right in this minute, and there'll be people there that at least love God with their heart, some, There'll be some there, heart, with their mind, their soul, inner things. But they're not gonna show any strength. In fact, all the strength's been taken out of traditional religion. The church I grew up in as a kid, and adults too, you couldn't add strength. You come in and lose strength, because anything you show is not reverence. Reverence is no strength. Sit and be quiet, right? Be reverent. And so when you go and follow the Hebrew language a little bit and stretch it out, then you come and he says, when it says strength, I like it because it's sort of translated like this. It means love me in your strength, love me with your much. That's actually what it says, or what it means. Love me with your much. And so strength is not just bodily strength. It's not just, some of you raised your hands and you sang loud. That's good, that's part of it. But it means much, means all that you are. It would mean, in those days, it would mean love me with your strength, love me with your loyalty, love me through everything you have, your animals, your assets, all that's you. Love me with your much. And I really like that. And as I said, though, in most religion today, as religious people, this is our biggest struggle I've found. I mean, not in myself, but in other people. Coming and adjusting to a church and an attitude where people come trying to love God with all their much. Because it's pretty easy if you grew up in a traditional church to come and learn to sit and sing once a little bit. In a church, I really appreciate, I've said this before, the Nazarene church that gave me some earliest years. And They were a little different than our church, obviously, but at the end, they would pray. They come to the altar, and everybody came to the altar and prayed, and they prayed with their much, and it was good. Well, then when we moved, there was a Methodist church close by, and it was a kind of where business people went, and it was close to our house, and so we started going there, and it wasn't much. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy, as one the beginning. Anybody been in that? Now, nobody went, world without end. Nobody was doing that. That would be what? Too much. See, too much. I don't want your much. Any much is too much in religion. And it's frightening to people. It's actually, there's so much deception that much is frightening. I mean, some of you probably, I don't know, nobody's ever told me this. I mean, I've heard it, but I've not been told by any of you. That you began to understand tithing and giving and offerings, okay? And you began to hear stories of people who were giving and generous and gave 10% every paycheck to God. And then you heard their stories of how God blessed them and how their life changed financially and their spirit changed inside too, out of generosity. And you heard all those things. And so you decided, I'm going to do that. I'm going to tithe 10%. I'm going to give in the offerings too. And I've heard this though, but I'm not going to tell my parents that I do that. You know why? It'll frighten them. They'll think you're in something weird. If you're giving 10% of all that you have to that church, there's something wrong. That's too much. Too much is frightening. I've seen parents, grandparents, relatives worry when they find out their kids come, maybe at the front, and raise their hands and stand here and sing. It frightens them. What have you done to those kids? Kids are supposed to be watching VeggieTales or something and playing games, just be in the nursery. And it frightens them. See, they're not afraid of mind or your soul or your heart. I gave my heart to Jesus. But when they find out you gave your strength, your much, it frightens people. Because any much in religion is too much. There's some great churches around, and I have great friends with great churches. But when they come here, they look out of place. And they believe the same thing I do. They're great people, great pastors, great leaders, but they look out of place because they have a church that loves God with their heart and soul and mind, but their church doesn't have any much. It's not much strength. And so when God does that now, you get it. Where he's saying, look, love me with your heart, your soul, your mind, and your much, your strength. I'm telling you, in our culture and who we are, that is the greatest hindrance, but also the greatest powerful, igniting fire gift you can get is when you start loving him with your much. It is life-changing because nobody does it. Hardly. That's not fair to say. There are places that do that, but not much, not too many, okay? So when we were talking a minute ago, I'll get off the subject of that just a little bit. I kind of threw out marriage a little bit. I didn't want to say too much or too little, just right, Little Goldilocks. Chair's not too big, it's just right. Not too much. But I will say this, that I don't deal with marriage as much, but there's other pastors here that do for me, because I don't wear you out. But over the years when I did it on a regular basis, and there was marriage trouble, usually it was the wife that came first, hoping her husband would come, but not always. But usually the wife would come first. And you just listen. And you think you're gonna hear something you haven't heard before. But it's almost always the same. Things aren't working out. Why? And I'm going to put it in our terms. He doesn't love me with much. In fact, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't do too much. He just does nothing. And so I have to do everything. I worry about everything because I have to worry about everything. Because if I don't worry about it, it won't get done. And if I don't do it, it'll never get done. And the lights will be shut off. And I told you that story once, so that you remember that great story. I can't say it too well because they might still be listening sometimes, but they don't live here. But anyway, so she came, and it's typical. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't help. He just comes home and blah, right? So when you ask your husband, or even an older boy, I won't go too much younger, but you ask your husband, what are you doing? He says, nothing. He's telling the truth. Nothing's going on. He's not even thinking about anything. It just exists. And so they come, and she came and she said, he does nothing. And they were married, and she's really frustrated. And I know she's thinking about divorce. And so she said, for instance, right now, our light bill is due, and it needs to be paid. I don't know if it was like tomorrow or the next day. And I got to figure out how to pay for it, because they were a little financially tight. Because I said, well, why don't you just have him pay it? Tell him, start turning to some respect. And she said, well, that won't work, because if I give it to him, he won't do it, and our lights will be shut off. I said, really? I said, okay, here's what I want you to do. Go give it to him. And when he's sitting in the dark, he'll learn that that's not enough. He better do a little bit more, much. And that's exactly what happened. The lights went off. He was upset. He was angry, probably angry at me too. He was angry at her that she allowed this to happen. And she just didn't say a word. I said, no, that's your job now. He's going to have to add a little much to it. So in relationships, husbands and wives, I know this is typical. I hope it's not you. I try to raise men up to be good men of God and good husbands that are responsible. I try. But still, our culture is so heavy on this. And so most of us, when we went to school, even when I was young, it was mostly women, mostly taught us. And today it's really that way. And our culture has sort of shifted, and what it does is it's a lot more feminine side culture. TV, I don't like sitcoms, but if you watch them, it's always a stupid husband and a really wise wife that's trying, and if he's really stupid, then the wise wife is always trying to trick him or hide something from him, or get around some way. But they're always dumb. Rarely are they anything but dumb. And so when you come and you minister, then you find out the tension is that one of the roles is missing, and that is strength. A husband that doesn't do much. And now God asks us for that, and husband's like, what? I don't know how to do this. Because you don't find very many people who do anything with all their strength. Very seldom. Very seldom do you, think of it yourself, you go to work. How many people go to work, and do you know when they are doing much? They're giving all their strength to the job, or his strength. Most of the time, it's just workers who are working, thinking about they can't wait to quit and go home and do nothing. Nothing. A lot of people dream of being rich, They wish they were rich, really rich. Why? So they could do nothing. Then they don't, I want to be rich so I can build and do and give and be generous, and I'll build them a new church. And no, I want to be rich enough to be waited on and do nothing. That's the truth in a lot of people's minds. Okay, well, I'll move along with this now and get out of it. Okay, so in religion at least, any much is usually too much. But in a relationship, I don't know if there's such a thing as too much. I don't know. I sometimes get the feeling from Kathy that sometimes I'm too much, but that's just because she just wants to sit down and take a break. Instead of me, because anytime I get around her, she's looking at me like this. all the time. I know you're in a hurry. You're looking at my, don't look at my, you're in a hurry. You're always in a hurry. I'm slow. And she wants to slow down. And I'm always like, come on, right? So maybe I'm a little too much. But in most cases, most wives are not getting too much. They're not getting much. And so if you want to help your relationship, I'm kind of talking to men, but I'm talking to everybody, start thinking about loving God is not that hard if you're understanding. You're making an agreement with God, this treaty with God, and now you need to learn what most men and women struggle with in their relationship with God. They don't offer too much. There's few people with too much. Okay, so let me finish. And it came to my mind, I love to preach on this, and I'm not going to preach long on it. But the story in the Bible of a guy, and my Bible says they call him the rich young ruler. So there's a young guy, he's got lots of money, probably prestige, power in the community, whatever. And he comes to Jesus, but he doesn't just come to Jesus. He comes to Jesus, and it's like he flew in and landed on his knees. So he's down low, he's got on his knees. And he says, tell me what I have to do to get eternal life, to get life. And Jesus says, well, keep the commandments. And that throws some people who are really into religious folks that he's asking for eternal life and you're telling him to do the commandments when we tell people, though, you got to confess Jesus. But he's meeting this guy where he is. Because when he says, well, keep the commandments, get this now. The young man says, I do all of them. Okay? So now he's caught. Because you see, Orthodox Jews, believing Jews that practice, they recite the Shema, which is love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, that every day. Every day. So if he says, I keep all the commands, then he would be a person that loves God with his heart, soul, because that's from Deuteronomy. That's even what we call Old Testament. Heart, soul, mind, and strength, which we know now what that means, with your much, okay? So he said, I do it. What else? Well, now he's caught himself, because all of a sudden Jesus goes, well, I know you have a lot, you have much. Go sell. Go give the money and sell and come follow me. Go give your money away, sell your stuff, and come follow me. And Jesus hit him right where he needed to be hit, right? Because then he gets up and it says he walks away sad. You know why? Because he knows himself. He knows himself. He knows that's too much. The much you're asking for is too much. And he goes away sad. He wishes he could. And the interesting thing is, there's not many times in the Bible when Jesus says, follow me. But he said it to this guy. Then follow me. And he has to walk away sad. A lot of people, their whole life will walk away sad because whatever they are, whatever they have, whatever they believe in, their beliefs, their habits, their style, their wants, their likes, everything, all their much, they're going to hold on to. And it hurts relationships. And obviously hurts your relationship with God because it's not the intention. Because God compares marriage to Jesus and the church. You're supposed to look at a good marriage and say, oh, so that's how Jesus treats the church. That's how he does things. He's not here to beat us up and things like that. He's here to give us his much to somebody else in a relationship with him that wants to give their much. My much doesn't compare, right? It's better than it was. I have much compared to what I had before. But if I compare it to his much, it's a little off balance. That's why he's being so good to offer me so much for my little much. Well, as I'm ending, I thought of something fun to mention. A few years ago, a couple of times, Alberta, as you know, we did Fiddler on the Roof. Great story. And so I just went, it's Tevye and the wife Golda. And they're doing whatever they're doing. And the husband, Tevye, asks Golda in the story and says, do you love me? And it's She doesn't quite know how to answer. Listen to her answer, though. This is the first answer. She says, what do you mean, do I love you? For 25 years, I've washed your clothes, cooked your meals, cleaned your house, given you children, milked the cow. After 25 years, why talk about love now? Okay? And here's that. And then you have a little bit more. And then he says, but do you love me? Second answer. For 25 years, I've lived with him, fought him, starved with him. 25 years, my bed is his. If that's not love, what is? How did she answer? It's obviously a Jewish story. How did she answer? She said, I suppose I do, but we understand what she's saying. Don't you understand? For 25 years, I've loved you with my much. And in the Jewish context of this, then that would be the same thing that God asks us. Do you love me with your much? In fact, it's 11:59, I can do it, yeah. I mean, I'm not getting done at 12, but I'm just saying I can get it done close to 12. Close. This is worth it, though. Great story. You know that Peter denied Jesus 3 times, if you know the story of, the Easter story as we call it, and he denies that he knows Jesus. He denies him. He says, I don't know him. Terrible thing to do, but he did it, okay? After he did it, we sometimes don't get the story straight. I'm sure he felt bad about himself, but he did it, and he didn't know what to do about it. And so he goes back to fishing, and so do the other guys. Especially the fisher guys, the brothers are all fishermen. And he owned, most people think, he didn't just fish, but he probably owned a couple of boats with the other guys. They kind of had a little boat business, fishing business, but they fished with nets and things like that. Well, he and some of the other guys, I don't know, maybe all of them, they go fishing again, back to fishing. So now they're fishing and out in the water doing that. And Jesus has been raised from the dead now, and he's got a glorified body, so he can walk and be there. And he comes walking in on the shore, and odd as it seems for a glorified man to do this, Jesus do it, but he cooks up some fish. I don't know, maybe he wasn't going to eat it. I don't know, maybe it's just for them, but he cooks up some fish. And Peter spots him, and his insides, fortunately, did take over. The others do too, and they're gonna row in and get the boats. He can't wait. He jumps into the water and just goes as fast as he can to the shore. The others are gonna come too, but they come up with the boats. So Peter gets there first. And I'm gonna shorten the story down a little bit just to give you the idea. So there's Peter, and Jesus does the same thing that was in Fiddler on the Roof. He said, Peter, do you love me? But it was more than that. The guys get there, the fish is there, it's all cooking, all there. And he says, Peter, do you love me more than these? Now, I heard a sermon on it, and it was wrong, in my opinion. I get it, though. The guy was preaching, interpreted that Jesus was asking Peter if he loved Jesus more than these other guys, these other people. And that bothered me because I don't think Jesus is ever going to ask me to do that. He's going to teach me how to love them better. Not I have to love him more and them less. I don't give him my much and I don't give them anything. So the logical thing is just to think, okay, put yourself there on the beach. What's going on? There's boats, there's nets, there's guys, there's fish, cooking and all that stuff. And all of a sudden you realize, he says, Peter, I'm interpreting now. Peter, you went back to fishing. Do you love me more than these nets and these boats and these fish? That's because that's what you did. That's what you're doing. Do you love me more than these things? And then we translate that out to us, and God asks us the same question, or Jesus asks us the same question. He might look and say, do you love me more than your car? Do you love me more than these things, your house and your job and all the nice things you get to do and you go out? That kind of life? Do you love me more than that? It's not that you can't do that, and you can't have any of these things. It's just, are these part of your much, or are these part of your escape from much? because it's for you. Your much is for you. And that's what he's asking. I see all this. Is this what you love now? Is this what it's going to be? And Peter, of course, he answers back. He gets upset that Jesus would even ask it because he said to him, you know that I do. And I'm thinking, Jesus thinking, no, I don't know that you do. Yeah, because your much is over there and I'm here. And of course, it turns out that Peter comes around and of course he becomes filled with the Spirit, a great preacher, stands, after the denial, he's the first one to preach. So it all turns, it's a great story and it all turns out good, right? But still there's that tension. When we do make mistakes or we feel we've drifted or we're just not feeling God anymore. I've had people say that. I don't know, I'm just not feeling it anymore. I used to. So that doesn't change your treaty. Whether you feel it or not, you made an agreement. And your part was what? Maybe you didn't know at the time, but now you know. Your part is loyalty, no other gods, no other king, right? You still got a family, you love your family, but you love them through your much. And God's gonna increase your much. See, he increases it. So you can love God with more and you can love all these people with more. Because with God, there's never too much. Think about how much he has. Is it too much? No, you're involved in a kingdom that doesn't have an end. It doesn't have an ending. There's a lot there. And he wants to offer that to you. So now as we get this, we're starting to get this, then we can just put the whole thing together and see maybe the mistakes we've made in life, maybe the mistakes we're making now at home or even with our children, people have children and they don't give much. Children take a lot of much, don't they? And you gotta love them enough where it's never too much. And that's been my philosophy for our kids and grandkids. I'm always ready to do. It's never too much. I'll work it out. I'll make time. I'll get there. I'll do it. I'll do it for you. I do that a lot. Got this situation? I'll take care of it for you. It's never too much. So my loving God with my much has not taken away anything from their much, but it's increased me in the much, too much, that I have more to give now to God and to them. See, I've increased in my much rather than giving it away and not getting it back again. So anyway, I called this sermon, Is It Love or Is It Like? So you could remember it and go home and be careful to talk about it because the like might come out and you might get into an argument. And you're there and you say, do you love me? Do I what? Okay, but let me finish with this little phrase. Like says, Jesus completes me. Like says, my husband completes me. My wife, I feel complete when I'm around them. But like can turn into dislike if they stop completing you. Maybe they get tired of doing that and they want to complete themselves now. So like says, you complete me. Love says, Jesus, crucify me so that I no longer live, but Christ lives through me and in me. The me just comes down. The me just comes down. It's just, I'm not gonna be that important. But to you, I hope I can be too much, if there is such a thing. Let's stand up. It's very fatherly, very pastoral. It doesn't make you run down and fall on your face before. Well, it might. It might. It might. This is just from my vantage point, okay? In my years, I've never taught this before, right, Kathy? You've never heard me preach this, ever. This popped just yesterday or the day before. And I saw you and I thought of you and I thought, this might really help. This might really help a marriage, might really help your relationship with God. Say, God, I can do this. I might not feel it. I might not be the most emotional person. But when we're worshiping God, we're not doing emotion. Some people think we are, well, they're just emotional. Are you kidding me? We're not. You better take the word just out of there, because there is no just in our life. No just in my life. It's not just. I heard a guy on TV, I think it was Super Bowl Sunday, and some of those people were doing Christian things around the country. I running the channels, and another guy was in his driveway, and I don't know how he got on TV, but anyway, he said we wanted to pray a prayer with you, and he said, just say this prayer, just. I thought, are you kidding me? That's just a prayer. That's not much. It can be a beginning, and it can work, but there's a whole lot of much after that. So I want to just one more time say to you, if you're struggling with God, you don't feel it, you don't feel like you're moving on with God, you need to in your relationship with your children or with each other, friends, whatever, at job, you can cure this. Most all relationship problems, including with God, can be cured when you add much strength. Add strength to what you do. Add strength to your prayers, add strength to your songs, add strength to your relationship, add strength when something needs to be done, your strength says, I'll do it. Add strength to your church. Start volunteering more, do more things, be active in more things, give more. Maybe, I didn't mean money, but that could be it too. You want to give more money. Activate that strength. Activate that strength. Give till your grandma says, I think that's too much. And you say, there ain't too much. There's no such thing as too much in my life. So that's the other's good. Heart, soul, mind, yes. But you probably, in relationship, you kind of did that. You kind of did that because that's our culture does. You put your heart into it, you mind, you love me with your mind and that. But our relationships with God, with people, with work, just lack strength. So God, I want to give you my much. And you're going to solve a lot of troubles. You're going to miss out on a lot of troubles and get a lot of abundant life. Abundant life. Father, in the name of Jesus, we take this word and we just went back to the original language. That's all we did. And go back to heart, soul, mind, and all my much I want to give to you. I want to start that treaty with you, that relationship with you, and walk forward and be that person that gives my much. Right now, how about we just confess Jesus as Lord? Why don't you pray with me? And it's not just do this. It's just do this. Do this. If you want to, pray with me and say, Dear Jesus, I offer you my life to serve you, to glorify you. Fill me with your Spirit. Forgive me of my sins. Help me to walk this out and help to make me a person that when they see me, they say, too much. Loves Jesus too much. All right, let's sing. You can come down and worship. Some people are coming down. Some people aren't. Some people did get convicted. Others of you just learned some great stuff. So good thing. We'll see you. Wednesday's going to be a great night and a lot of fun around here. I'll give it to you guys then.